Hello, my lovely humans. I just got done doing physical labor, so hence why I look a little... But I am going to continue on with telling you a review. So this is a little longer one because we are going over a movie, TV show. Not sure which. I'm going to explain that in a second. But it revolves around the werewolf fanfic universe. It was either inspired by a fanfic or was sourced by one. But if you're not familiar, let me catch you up on a few things. So in the werewolf fanfic universe, unlike real life wolves, they have like Alpha is the pack leader and they're the domineering person, all about bloodlines and stuff. Betas are their right-hand man, often their best friend that they use as personal assistants. And there's a moon goddess who controls a whole bunch of stuff, including she finds the mate for you. And whoever you are mated to, that is destiny for love. You will have the best whatever according to the moon goddess. Now, that bond can be severed when usually the male, I've only ever seen it done by the male, alpha or not, rejects the female. And they are in extreme pain, like literal heart attack levels of pain, until they say, I accept, or the alpha suddenly changes their mind and says, oh, actually, I want you. Now, do I personally care that every minute or so I have to watch an almost that amount of time ad? Not really. I did end up spending 15 real life dollars to finish watching the whole episode. But I have questions. And most of my questions, which I'm going to be repeating throughout this, just a forewarning, is where's the director? Who's the writer? It's going to come up over and over again. Who is the person in charge of making sure that cinematic choices are made correctly? For instance, spoiler alert, we're not given that at the beginning of this of the first episode, but we really should be, because I don't know whose choice this was. Each character's full name is presented the first time that they're on screen, and the main character's name is Celine. Now, gonna give you the plot before we get more into our characters. So the main plot story is about how 15 years prior to when we're watching the show, Blood Moon Pack attacked the Red Dawn Pack, and the Blood Moon Pack supposedly killed the Alpha and Luna's child, whose name is Celine. And they are Alpha and Luna Lovett. There would be a lot more suspense, even though you end up kind of being able to put two and two together later. It's kind of literally spelled out for you when it just says Celine Lovett in her name. It's like if they would have just written Celine, or, just said, Alpha whoever instead of their first and last name, would have been a better choice to me. And the Red Dawn Alpha, whose name is Alpha Ethel, he wants vengeance, and he wants the biggest, most powerful pack, Nightwind, to help him avenge the death of his daughter. Now, even though her body was never found, she never showed up again. So that's the determination that they're liars and murderers, and they want vengeance. I'm looking down because I have a series of notes. Also, in the beginning, we're given this little narration of how all the wolf packs live off of century-old fortunes, except for Nightwind's Alpha Alexander, because we find out much later in the episode this. So I guess he has like new and old wealth. I'm fine with it. All of them are wealthy, though. So we have Celine, who is our just rebellious enough, feisty attitude maid of the Blood Moon Pack. And we see that she has been just abused and mistreated because the soon-to-be Luna Tiffany of Blood Moon just slaps her several times. I think that we get a total of like 6 slaps from Tiffany to Celine. And when Celine tries to stop her, Alpha Jackson steps in of Blood Moon, and he's like, you need to know your place. You're an orphan. By the way, we will get told several times in a few scenes, which means we're getting told like every 50 seconds, roughly, at the beginning, that Celine is an orphan. Repeatedly. And that she's packless. that they took her in, Blood Moon saved her, that she owes them that. And it's a lot. We really only need to hear it twice, in my opinion, once for audience information, and one more time maybe if she has to explain that to another character who wouldn't know what we know. But we get told a lot. So in this universe, you get your wolf at 18. That's when you're a legal adult, and you find out who your mate is. Well, Celine is not yet 18. She's going to be on the same day that Jackson and Tiffany are having their engagement party, which means she's underage when Jackson does this. All right. I'm under the impression that both the main alphas, Alpha Jackson and Alpha Alexander, who we'll get to later, are at least 2 or 3 years older than Celine. It also gets revealed by Blood Moon's beta, Luke, that Celine and Jackson are mated, and Jackson knows it. But he plans on rejecting her when he has to wait until she knows about the bond, apparently. So I'm concluding, before he can reject her, sever the bond. But he seems to want her, so... But we do see Celine being forced to clean up a mess that she didn't make, and she's praying to the moon goddess to get her wolf as soon as possible so she can go rogue and escape the abuse that she's in. Well, then it's the day of the party. She's working it. She turns 18. She gets her wolf, and I do not know why Celine, just as soon as she gets her wolf, just doesn't bail. She stays to make it through the rest of the party. But Jackson at this point has decided that he's going to reject her, sort of. He has a plan. She turns 18. She gets her wolf. Her wolf tells her that Jackson is her mate. And she's like, no, absolutely not. Well, then Jackson shows up and he goes, enjoying your birthday? And she goes, did you know? And he goes, yeah, but it doesn't matter. I can't have you. And so he goes, I reject you. She goes in pain. And he goes, maybe if you beg. And I think his plan was to say, if you beg for me to keep you, I'll let you stay, blah, blah, blah. But she immediately rejects him because she can't stand him. She's disgusted by him. And this shocks him into kicking her out. He goes, when the party's done, you're out. I don't know why she just doesn't bail right then and there. Why does she stay to finish the party? Now, people who might have seen the show might say, well, because Alpha Alexander gets invited to the party and he accepts, and he's going to be there, and he's going to be her other mate. That's how they meet. But my argument is, if Alpha Alexander's going to the party anyway, he could see Celine walking up the road with just a pack of stuff in a garbage bag, and he would still get the mate bond because Celine's already rejected by Jackson. So that's made, and there could have been a whole drama situation of him, oh, you're my mate, let me save you, what happened to you, confronting, Jackson at his own engagement party. It could have been good. He senses his mate, he pulls over, and the whole thing gets explained, and then he shows up to the engagement party with Celine all dressed up on his arm. Oh, that would have been great. But no, we don't get that. We get to see him seeing her for the first time taking out trash, and he is absolutely smitten by this. Sure, mate bond be strong? Well, Drake is with Alpha Alexander, as he is most of the time, and he goes, find out who she is. That's my mate. And here's where we run into my first, where's the director, where's the writing issue? I mean, other than everything we just seen. But here's my problem. Because fast forward to a little bit after that, and they're all sitting down outside on the porch chit-chatting, they being Alpha Jackson, Tiffany, and Alpha Alexander. Drake and Luke are standing nearby, and Tiffany says, so he knows her name, at least her first name, and he knows that Alpha Ethel's daughter was named Selene. Nothing. It could have been, again, a really dramatic scene of, wait, her name is Selene? What's your last name? And it could have come out in a big way. Instead, Selene serves the wine, she wanders off, Drake follows her, and he finds out that not only is it her birthday, but that the way she is forced to bathe herself is with a bucket. I would just like to also point out something that I would be a lot more entrenched in that if Selene looked dirty, if she had like some dirt smudges on her face, if her hair was a little more messed up or something, to indicate that she doesn't get to clean herself right or very often. So it's nighttime when I had to resume filming from the last thing because I have no time management. Anyway, moving on. So I don't understand that. And finally, Alpha Alexander comes in and rescues her again from being smacked, and he asks her name. We get this, which again could have gotten earlier, methinks. And says that, oh yeah, I'm gonna go rogue because you wouldn't want an orphan like me to be your person. He's like, oh, I don't care about any of that stuff. Hands her the box. It has a beautiful necklace in it. And she's all really flabbergasted. And then Jackson demands to see Selene after he has a little talk with Tiffany, which doesn't go well because he accidentally calls Tiffany Selene. And we all know how well any girl, much less a really uppity girl like Tiffany, would take that. Have I been making myself better throughout this whole thing? Unlike the movie? Why, yes. So Jackson demands to see Selene. She agrees to go talk to him. I don't know why. Like, literally, the better thing to do would have had Alpha Alexander and Drake and Selene just go storming off, and Jackson can't take it and he chases after them. But no. She goes and talks to him. He confesses his love for her. This is where his acting gets a little spotty. And she's like, yeah, no, you can't abuse me for years and let your fiance abuse me for years and then expect me to go, oh, you love me? Oh, okay. Like, you rejected me immediately upon me learning about our bond. That's not love. And she's not wrong. But I don't understand why she shows up. He starts getting aggressive with her. Alexander whisks her away at last. And, there's a peace treaty on the line. Apparently, that gets brought up a couple times. I didn't mention that. It's thrown around that there's a peace treaty that's about to end. And so everyone's kind of walking on eggshells before they vote. So as they're leaving the woods and heading towards Alexander's castle, Selene is fascinated. She's never left, apparently, the Blood Moon pack house. And she loves seeing the lights. And what is that, a movie theater? So then they end up on a rooftop and she's just blown away by the scenery, which we don't get to see. You would think that, like, an overhead view of a city skyline wouldn't be that expensive for a movie to, like, incorporate. Because they certainly were not spending it on extras and costumes, at least not for Selene. Then Alexander asks her if she's hungry, and I have a lot of problems with the whole upcoming couple scenes. Because Selene expresses how much she would love fried chicken. Because apparently whenever they had fried chicken at the Blood Moon pack house, she wasn't allowed to have any, but she always thought it smelled great. I cannot relate to that. I don't like fried chicken, but I digress. So then Alpha Alexander arranges it, he gets the chicken, and then she gives this reaction. She's so excited. Her moment to finally have that mouth-watering chicken is hers, which is great, until she takes her bite. And this. No. Where was the director for this scene? She gave us this face, And then when she finally gets to the bite of the chicken, we get this face? No, I need to see a foodgasm happening here. I want there to be, oh my, this is so good. It's even better than I imagined. I need that level based on the previous faces and levels of excitement that we got. Not this. And as she's chewing, another annoying thing is her first and, as far as we see, only bite of food, despite expressing how starved she was before. Alexander decides that this is the time to try to be seductive. Listen, if that were me, he would have lost a hand. I'm hangry. I had to put up with all this stuff. My birthday was like ruined most of the day. And I'm finally getting the food I've been craving. Back off. Selene decides she wants to be as forthright with Alexander as possible and tells him about how she was mated to Jackson only for a very, very brief time before he rejected her and she accepted it. And Alexander's like, did you ever do it? And she's like, no, I found out about it and almost immediately it got broken off. Nothing ever happened. Fast forward, we're in their bedroom, Alexander's bedroom. A sexy scene starts, but then gets stopped by Selene, who says, wait, I need to bathe. Do you have a bucket? Again, we could have had a good, sexy scene. We could have had something good here. Alexander, being the suave alpha that he is, he could have been like, well, let's take a shower together. And, he rips off his shirt, slowly undresses Selene. We get to see some sexy shower kissing, hands running through the wet hair. But no, we don't get any of that. He kind of shows her what shampoo and conditioner and how to turn the water on and off, and then he leaves her to it. I mentioned before how Selene doesn't really look very disheveled or dirty earlier, which this is supposed to be her real beauty shining through. She's getting clean with a real shower for the first time. And it's like, if her hair had been like really messy, frizzy, looking kind of icky, if she had dirt splotches on her skin or had more kind of torn clothes or something, then it would have been more revealing. And I also have this problem. Throughout the shower scene where you see her like washing the hair, getting clean, you see that she has perfectly polished nails, both pedicure and manicure. They won't let her bathe like in a normal shower. She has to use a bucket, but they're letting her get professional mani-pedis done. It's like obvious color. It's not like, oh, you could kind of see peach or it was a clear coating. No, it's like there was pink and red. Again, this could have been an interesting scene of seeing the real beauty reveal, but because she wasn't too disheveled to begin with, it just falls flat. So now she's out of the shower, her hair's all clean. She's looking really good in some oversized silk pajamas of Alexander's, down for it. They start kissing, and then she readmits that she's a virgin to him, that she was waiting for her mate. Like, we already had that discussion with the fried chicken. And then he decides that he needs to scuttle off to take his own shower, but we find out it's just because he wants to privately talk to his wolf. And then Selene talks to her wolf and says, I scared him off. I turned him off because men don't like virgins. They're like the plague to men. Honey, no, they're not. Men enjoy virgins because they can't stand criticism. And Alpha Alexander's like, what if she finds out I'm a virgin too? And his wolf is like, yeah, you're not. It's kind of suggested that even though he hasn't gone all the way, he has done things. Even his sister will later on, which we'll touch on, reveals that he's never really had. That's because by the time he gets out of the shower, Selene has fallen asleep, so he takes a cold shower, and then he has to go to work early the next day. She wakes up to a note and she starts doing some dishes, and that's where we meet Alexander's sister, Milan. I think Milan is a kind of supposed to be a play on words for her name because she loves to go shopping. And so, like, Milan is one of the shopping capitals of the world. I appreciate it. And this interaction is just baffling because Milan brings in a teacup and just hands it to Selene, saying, "Oh, you're new around here? Well, how many new people do they have around there? Not many." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, my name's Selene." She's like, "Oh, my Luna Selene? Oh, no." And for some reason, Selene has the audacity to look confused. Like, I understand that she grew up packless as an orphan, but she grew up, like, being the maid in a pack house. She knows how the whole Alpha Luna thing works. She had been abandoned and had been left to fend for herself in the woods and wasn't found until much later, then I guess, but that wasn't the case. Where's the writer? And also, I don't know if this was just because of the lack of ability to get extras or whatever, but for some reason, the choices made to have Milan be the character, Alexander's sister, asking weird personal sex questions to Selene. She asks Selene how was he, as in her brother, and even as a werewolf, that's still weird. And she tries to get played off as being a gossip, I think. It doesn't help. So then Milan takes her shopping, and we get into a whole lot of nonsense with the timeline because when they're out shopping, it's shown as being nighttime. But then when they get back from shopping and Alexander gets back from work, he finds her washing dishes, and there's a window in front of the sink, and there's clearly daylight coming through. And during the shopping before Alexander part, Jackson texts Selene because for reasons we don't know, she doesn't block him immediately. She's had time to do that. But he tells her that he has information, but he'll only tell her in real life if she comes alone. We'll touch back on that. But Alexander and Selene are finally comfortable. They're going to do it, and we could have had such a hot, steamy scene here. Alexander could have given an alpha wolf growl. Selene could have made some gasps of pleasure. There could have been some moaning. We could have seen shirts getting ripped off. We could have seen nails getting dragged down skin. We could have seen sheets getting clutched. But no, we immediately go from kissing and then afterwards. And you know what? It's not even, we could have had a sexy afterwards. They could have been like, "Well, that was great," sweating, hair messed up, but we don't get any of that. They're just calmly laying there. And Alexander chooses a very weird topic for pillow talk. He immediately asks her, "Do you remember anything about your parents?" And she says no. And because Jackson had said that he knows something about her parents and to come alone, she could have brought it up right then. She could have said, "But Jackson said he knows something about it. He wanted me to go see him." And we could have had some drama. Alexander could have popped up and went, "What? We're going to go see him right now." Grabbed Alpha Ethel and, had another confrontation. But instead, the movie decides to give us drama in the form of Caitlin is a she-wolf at Nightwind who claims that she was the first person to sleep with Alexander. And I don't know why this matters, because at no other point in the movie is it ever indicated that the moon goddess blesses people like that, or that has any indication of matehood or anything. But Caitlin tries to make it work. Milan insists that it's not true, that Caitlin's been saying those lies for years. Again, I don't know why it matters. And then we get Selene going off to meet Jackson on her own. Why? Why do we keep trusting this man, Selene? Why do you keep going to him? You have the talk with him the night you left and everything else. The last conversation you had with this man, he said that he would take you to a secure location, marry Tiffany, and let her be the other she-wolf. And he also, mistreated you for years, and for at least a couple years, he knew he was your mate. And how did she get there alone? She doesn't know how to drive, and he supposedly lives really deep in the woods. She's in the city. Someone had to take her there, right? What did she tell Beta Drake? "Hey, could you drop me off at the Blood Moon Pack House and not tell?" It's never explained to us. She just shows up, and Alpha Jackson gets really dressed up for her. I'm just saying, I want this shirt. And we could have had something good here. He could have said, oh, you have to spend the night with me, or, go to the bedroom with me in order to get this information, blah, blah, blah. Like, there could have been some balance here, but instead he just goes, all right, here you go. And he tells her all about how his parents attacked Red Dawn and that she was a part of the Red Dawn pack and that they kept her as a... But Red Dawn is still a pack, so like that indicates that they all got destroyed, but they're still their own pack. They haven't like conjoined with Nightwind. At least that has not been implied thus far. Selena gets upset. They start to have an argument, and then Beta Luke jumps in and says, the other alphas are turning against you. They're going to vote against the peace treaty. So Alpha Jackson and Luke go to take care of that. And then we enter in Tiffany. I have a lot of questions about this whole scene. How did Tiffany know she was there? She comes in and she goes, oh, hello, Cinderella. She has these old-looking goblets, and she goes, I have drinks. Girl, don't drink that. This is your arch enemy who's slapped you at least 6 times in the last 2 days. She also purposely set you up with her fiance just so she could get mad about it. Not trustworthy. Especially when she says stuff like that. Yeah, that's poisoned. But no, we're supposed to believe that Tiffany gets to Selene enough to just take a swig. Now here's my thing. I thought werewolves had like heightened senses, like of smell and hearing. So how did she not smell like the badness in it? Because we learned that Tiffany poisoned her with wolfsbane because Jackson and Luke come back in the room and see Selene on the ground, and Luke smells the wine glass and goes, it's wolfsbane. Wolfsbane is bad in all of werewolf lore. Like, why did they have wolfsbane in a pack house? How was Tiffany able to touch it and use it without getting hurt herself? How was Luke able to smell and detect it, but not Selene or anybody else? Jackson wants to take her to the hospital and completely ignores Tiffany, who gets offended by that. Like, girl, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think they were going to find Selene dead on the ground and Jackson was going to be like, guess I can't get with her anymore, and swoop you up? But Luke says no, because then they'll attack. They'll have a reason to. They'll know it was us. And she's already going to be dead anyway, because only alphas can survive wolfsbane, blah, blah, blah. And this is where we kind of are supposed to gather that even though Jackson knew about the attack of Red Dawn and that they took Selene from Red Dawn, that he didn't know that she was the daughter of the Alpha and Luna. Meanwhile, in Alexander's office, this happens. And then we finally get to see a wolf attack. We get to see someone transform into their wolf and go for it. And Alexander's wolf is... You would think for as much money as they saved in costumes and extras, they could have pulled this off a little better. And we only see him attack Alpha Jackson, and not with Drake. Like, Drake has been at Alexander's hip the whole movie, and then for this very important saving the Luna scene, like, that's Drake's Luna too, nowhere to be seen. And then we get a really intense fight scene between Alexander and Luke. Listen, I understand that maybe they weren't allowed to like trash the set, like maybe that was actually somebody's living room or something, they weren't allowed to break things, but I'm just saying, he could have in a wolf form went for the neck, he could have just snapped a neck, he could have put him in a sleeper hold, there could have been some actual wrestling around, hitting him over the head with a blunt object. There are options. Where was the director? I have been moved out of the way by coworkers more aggressively than Alexander attacks Luke. Or Jackson could have turned into a wolf and we could have seen some wolf duking it out, of course, based on how that looked. Maybe that wouldn't have been the best. But I mean, we could have gotten something. Like maybe Luke could have dropped to his knees at Jackson's side and started pleading with Alexander, like, no, listen, we didn't do it. It was Tiffany. We came in and found her like this. It wasn't Jackson. I swear I was with him. Potential was there, right there. So he takes Selene to the hospital, he being Alexander, and after a couple days, I don't know how long Wolfsbane takes to have its effect because she went unconscious and felt sick immediately. So why it's not slowing her heart rate and whatever, I don't know. It's not explained. And no one puts two and two together of, if only alphas can survive Wolfsbane poisoning and she's not dead yet. Instead, Alexander tells Drake that they're declaring war for the murder of his Luna. And oh yeah, fight scene. We're gonna see it. We're gonna see wolves snarling at each other. We're gonna see the two groups charging at each other in a field. We're gonna see some really cool bites, blood splatters, getting to see tufts of fur getting ripped out, growling, howling, and whimpers of war. But no, we actually don't get to see any of that. We get told a war happens and none of it is ever shown. Like, not even in the hospital, you don't see a bunch of people scurrying around getting brought in by stretchers. We don't even get an overcom of, hello, yes, we have more incoming wounded from the war. Nothing. What we get is Milan sitting next to Selene talking to her after she gets off the phone with Alexander, and she talks to Selene about how she needs to get better. Like, you know how Wolfsbane works, Milan. Why would you want that? Hoping for a miracle, I guess. When you're at the bedside of someone who's you think is dying, you probably say all kinds of stuff, I'm sure. Then Selene does this finger thing. She starts to wake up, and Milan runs to get the doctor. And at first it's really good, like it seems like it's going somewhere. The doctor comes in and determines that she has alpha blood by looking at her eye with a light. And the next little thing could have been so much better because Milan goes, I need to call Alexander. She has a phone in her hand, and it just would have been a better thing overall if she had been frantically on her phone going, I need to call Alexander, instead of her just going, I need to call Alexander. It's like, it would have just worked better with the drama. But again, we don't seem to have a director or producer or cinematographer or no one on the set going, hey, it would look good here. Milan fills in Selene about what happened, and she goes, oh yeah, Jackson's here too. And so Selene, again, for unfathomable reasons, wants to go see him. So Milan takes her there because that's her Luna who just got better. She's not going to deny her things, I guess. And she goes in and she sees him. He has an IV. He has his head wrapped in a bandage. And that's really it. He's over there like, I have a fractured this. I have fractured wrists. I have failing organs, broken ribs. And he was like, him and Alexander went toe to toe. Or wolf to wolf, whatever. And it's like, look for yourself. Does that look like a werewolf man, whatever, who has severe injuries? He doesn't have any wrappings around his wrist. There's no blood kind of coming out of the side. He doesn't have any black eyes, bleeding lips. He just, again, they were like afraid of making people look bad in this. Like, that's where we get the drama from. If you don't know how to make a bruise, ask Amber Heard. She got that. I mean, he does cough a little bit. She hopes he gets better. We don't know why. He says, can I have a hug goodbye? And she goes to give him a hug, and he pulls her into a kiss, with his not wrapped or fractured wrists. And that's when Alexander interrupts. And we start to get a little bit of drama. It starts to be so good because he says. And then they just have a little couples fight. And it upsets me that she goes, do you still want to marry a nobody rogue? No. You know you're not a nobody rogue. Jackson already told you, a while back, several days according to this timeline at least, that you had a pack, Red Dawn. You knew that you weren't, like, there's a possibility that you still might have been orphaned, but you're not a nobody, and you've been determined to have alpha blood. Alexander decides he secretly does a DNA test to show that she is Selene Lovett, even though we all knew it from the beginning. And he's gonna take her to meet her parents. It's a big surprise. It's wonderful. And they get down there to the restaurant or wherever they're meeting. She looks overly confused, even though she does know more at this point. But she's still a loving reaction, a nice little reunion. The parents are overwhelmed. The Alpha and Luna of Red Dawn just overwhelmed with emotion at finally seeing their daughter, who they thought was dead or at least missing for 15 years. And for no explanation whatsoever, Selene starts being able to read minds selectively, like she can currently only hear Alexander's mind. We do have a little thing before that says that she just got her wolf. She's not fully adapted to it yet because she's young, but she gets this tapped potential of being able to read minds, and apparently Alexander's mind isn't, we finally get to them to be together, we finally have avenged everything. No, his mind is apparently in the gutter, and she's like, Alexander, don't think things about wanting to, like, do me in front of my parents. And after only a few minutes, they whisk away again to go do said dirty things. Hey, you got 3 minutes with the parents that you never knew that you were missing from, and they thought you were dead. Okay, that's enough time now. Selene gets back to the pack house. Milan is excited and throws some confetti, and Caitlin tries to interrupt again, but then Selene reads her mind to be able to say the truth that, oh, you never really slept with Alexander, blah, blah, blah. And Caitlin storms off. Luna's ceremony / marriage ceremony, which is really cute. Selene looks beautiful. And her parents are there. The pack house members that we know of Nightwind are there. And so is Beta Luke. Like, look here. We don't ever get shown or told that he converts to Nightwind Hospital. It's just, why is he there? Just to fill a spot because that was the only other actor they had? When did he trade sides? Doesn't even get addressed that he's there, though. And again, why are the most wrong people made to make the most inappropriate intimacy comments? Because her newly found dad, Alpha Ethel, tells her this. So then Selene and Alexander go to do some official honeymoon business, but she starts to feel ill and goes and she ends up sick. And Alexander is just like, oh, should we name it Alexander Jr.? And just starts listing off potential baby names and acronyms. And then they're like, oh, we're having a baby. Like, what? Does Selene's dad have baby making fertility powers? Is that his alpha power? We don't know. Nothing's ever explained. And the peaches, if things are going to start making sense now. I do like the show. There are parts of it where I was like there for it. It obviously got me to spend money to finish watching it, so it can't be that bad. Either that or I just have trashy taste, one of the two. I guess my biggest problem is how there was so much room for potential had a director or experienced person been on set. It was just, there was so much there. It's like, this could have been good here, here, and here, and it just fell short of its potential. Like, if I had been the director, top tier, apparently. And I did appreciate, again, Alpha Ethel and mostly the Alphas, Drake, especially Tiffany. The acting for those characters really carried through. The two main alphas are pretty hot. Again, I have a main thing for Alpha Jackson, but both of them were attractive to look at. Everyone who was on set was decent. Sometimes I thought a little too decent, but we touched on that. Like, there were just some choices made that I just did not understand. But yeah, if you get the chance, like if somebody you know already has it, it's worth a gander to me. But again, what could have been was just okay. So thank you for joining me. If you've seen Fated to My Forbidden Alpha, let me know what you thought of it below. I am aware that there were other people who have made commentary things on this, but they all have their own taste. I have my opinion, and I hope that you overall enjoyed this review, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!